Evening here at Family Television, Church of Uganda. My name is Nowamani. You're welcome to our show today. The talk show is going to be about, of course, older persons. These are our mothers, these are our grandmothers, these are our friends, these are our sisters, these are family, and we love them so much. And so today we were celebrating the Elderly Persons Abuse Day. Yes, and of course in studio I have very many visitors for us to get into the discussion. But before I do that, I want to remind you that it is necessary for you, of course, to treat these people with kindness, treat these people with high regard, because of course that is where all of us are headed. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our guests in studio. Today I am with very important people in our society, and by name, one of them is called Peace Kyamureku, an older person's activist. To my left is, of course, Kemigisha. She is the country representative for an NGO called Hello Age International, as well as Menya Patrick, who is at the extreme left. He's the principal gerontologist, yes, in the Department of Elderly People. This is in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. To start off a conversation, we want to understand who is an elderly person and what is the age that you are, of course, what is the age that you are referred to as an elderly person. I'll start with Menya Patrick and then go on to the ladies later.
Yeah, thank you so much, moderator.
Yes.
I'll pick your name later.
Carol.
Yes, Carol.
Yes.
Good evening, viewers. We are delighted to be here to talk about issues of aging in this country, and thank you for hosting us. You've asked a pertinent issue: who is an older person? An older person, according to the Constitution and according to the policies that relate to aging, an older person is that person who has accumulated 60 years. So whoever has accumulated 60 years on this earth is taken to be an older person. Okay. So we don't measure an older person by the looks. You know, you'll find someone who is gone at 40. But we can't say this person is what? Old. So an older person, according to UN, according to the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, according to the policies that govern issues of older persons, is that person who has accumulated the age of 60. Okay. Exactly that.
We have seen, of course, in the National Council of Elderly Persons Act 2013, there are different leaderships that have been set in place. I'm coming back to the types of elderly abuse, but can we first know the leaderships that pertain to this particular group of people?
Thank you. In 2013, His Excellency the President, Parliament came up with an act, that is the National Council for Older Persons Act 2013. And this act is purely for representation of older persons. Okay. That previously we didn't have a channel, we didn't have a conduit through which issues of older persons reach the concerned parties. Now, by having the Act 2013, the National Council for Older Persons Act, it established structures through which issues of older persons can be heard. And these structures are running from the village level. We have the village council. The village council is composed of all older persons in that village. Then we have the parish council. After forming the village council, all the older persons in a particular village will converge to elect a council. And this council will now form the parish council. We go to the sub-county council, we come to the district council. Then from the district, all districts converge to have regional representatives. Okay. Then from the regional representatives, we form the national council. So the national council is a composition of elected delegates from regions, and each region has 2 representatives. That is, East has 2, a male and a female, West a male and a female, Central, a male and female, then Northern, a male and female. So those are the politically elected leaders representing older persons at the National Council. Then we have other ex-officials, and also other officials, like we have a gerontologist, that's the profession in issues of aging. We have someone representing CSOs, because CSOs are our partners that we work with. So someone represents CSOs. Then after that, we have representatives of different line ministries. We have a representative of Ministry of Health, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Finance, and Public Service.
Yes.
Those people, when they meet, they form, we have 17 members at that council. Then amongst themselves, they elect the chairperson. So we have a council which presents older persons at all levels. And currently, we have older persons who are members of parliament who are representing older persons.
Yes, about 5.
They are 5. Yeah, every region brought one person. East, we have Honorable Jedudu, then Honorable Joram Tibasimwa from West. Then we have Honorable Mavenjina from the North. We have Honorable Penina Businje from Central. Then the women, the older women, also have a representative in Parliament. This is for the whole country. Okay. So that is Honorable Wako Joy. So that is the composition of the council. All
right, interesting. Before I get to what is the work of these people, can we first know the types? Maybe let me start with Peace Kyamureku to tell us the types of older persons abuse.
Okay. Thank you, and good evening, viewers. Older persons have been not recognized in the past. And we really try to tell the world that yes, when you grow old, there are some abuses that you go through, although they can be avoided. Okay. There is some stereotyping where our communities imagine that older persons are old and don't think, or they are old-fashioned and don't understand the youth, and they should not be relied on. You know, they call us all sorts of names, which we're trying to avoid. And we feel that that is ageism, where you find that you're an older person, but they always community wants to put you in the background, because they think you've lived your time and you should not be interfering with whatever is going on, because you will not understand. You go to the bank, the tellers will come and say, Madam, can I help you fill in the form? Then you say, but I thought I went to school, I have my qualifications, how come? Do they think I cannot write? And that happens. You are in a taxi, or someone sees you with a smartphone and says, wow, and they can even come around you, and you feel embarrassed. There are things that happen to us in our old age, and if people understood them, they would pay attention to us. For instance, that's why I have my 4 glasses here. I used not to have them. You really need to have a technique of remembering to carry your glasses, especially when you're going to read. So you may find some older persons who may not be visually able to see properly, and they are abused in all sorts of ways. And the abuse is socially being segregated upon. It can even be political, although we've had the political side of it, but do our communities understand that we have something to say? Or they will even come to take the benefits from us instead of letting us to, think our issues through. There are issues, even sexual abuse. Many women are raped. Older women are raped. One time I was in the village, and this older woman was passing by my home, and I said, what is the problem? He says, I'm going to tell the chairman, there are these boys, when they get drunk, they came knocking at my door, and I fear my door is going to fall in, and then they will rape me. And at my age, what will happen to me? So there are such challenges, and we believe that if people, if our communities respected us more, then such challenges would be reduced.
Okay, we're going to look at policies or solutions to that, but I would like to ask Miss Emily, do you have something to add in regards to the types of... okay, let's
Thank
go
you
with
so
that.
much. Thank you so much, Madam Peace and my colleague Menya, for that introduction and good information, especially Peace for giving the examples really that happen to older persons. And to being an older person and hearing it from the horse's mouth, I think it sinks to the listeners. Yeah, just to add also that there's another form of abuse is neglect. And this is very rampant in our communities, because as Uganda, as Africa, there was always this tradition where there's this family system where older persons are expected to be supported by the family members. But of recent past, we see this degenerating. Daughters-in-laws were expected to really be cooking and giving food to their mothers-in-laws, but it is really changing. Everyone is running to the city, and the older persons are neglected and abandoned in their communities. And because of that, they will be denied their right to food, which is really a basic need, and we have witnessed older persons starving to death because of the deprivation of food. And also, healthcare, you know our systems, you really need to move to the health center. And if you do not have the energy and even the support for someone to take you to the health center, then in most cases you'll find the older persons being neglected, being left in their houses, ailing. Sometimes it is even just malaria which could have been treated, but there's nobody to take them there. So those are some of the neglect issues that we see in communities that are coming to arise, and where we want to really raise awareness and call upon family members, call upon community members to get this sense of responsibility to support the older persons. There's also physical abuse, and it is really very common. It comes in form of hitting. It can be pinching, it can be pushing, and this is really common, especially when an older person is sick. And the perpetuators, in most cases, are the caretakers. They really get tired, and they begin to pinch them, they begin to hit them, they begin to do all sorts of things that we can categorize as physical abuse. And most of the time, these cases are really not reported. They're silent, so it will appear as if elder abuse is not taking place, but the problem or the point is that they are not being reported. And for sexual abuse, she talked about it, I'll not repeat, but there's also financial abuse. We have seen, in most cases, a lot of fraud cases taking place. Because you know this is an older person, is already 90, is frail, cannot see, people come in to grab their land. We've seen these cases of where people grab older person's land. And there's also this tendency of children feeling entitled to the land of the older person. And we really look at this as financial abuse, because as an older person, I have a right to own property. I have a right to own land. So it is not guaranteed that, you know, when I have children, I have to give them land. It should be upon choice. So if I have land as an older person, it should be upon my choice. I should decide and consent if land is going to be given to my children or any relatives. But we see a lot of force. We see cases where adult children are actually killing their parents so that they can get land. So these are some of the issues that we really want our community to get to know about. If it is an older person's land, it is their land. They have their right, and they have their right to decide whom to give it to. If they want to sell it and enjoy it, let it be. This is a human right approach that we want to take.
Very true. We are seeing a very, very big issue, a depression issue in the youth. Are you trying to say that even in the older persons now, depression is crossing over?
Yes. Yeah, actually, emotional abuse is also another rampant issue. There's a lot of psychological abuse. People are assaulted, people are traumatized because of what is happening. You know, that's loss of dignity as an older person. You know, you grow. At some point, you're making decisions on your own. But as you get older, the caretakers, the family members want to make decisions for you. And this is also a form of psychological torture. Even though it's about the health center that I have to go to, if I'm feeling sick, talk to me and say, you know, we are taking you to Kampala for medication, for medical checkup, but not just, okay, mzee, sit, we go. They have no idea where they are going to. That kind of traumatizes. You take them to Kampala, sit here, they have no idea when they're going back, they have no idea, like it really puts someone at a depression level because you're losing this sense of independency, you're losing this sense of responsibility, and people are beginning to decide for you all of a sudden. That really stresses other persons and kills them so fast.
So as a person...
Possibly, Carol, sorry to come in.
No, it's well.
Psychologically or socially, I don't know whether you have experienced it, that wherever rains fail, they look for another person, especially the women.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. We've had, in fact, in Kabarole, an old woman was killed on assumption that she was bewitching, that because of the failure to rain, it is because of her. So they killed her. So in African context, the moment a lady grows old, with at least for the men, the moment you put on great hair, that is wisdom. But the women, even in Hoima, someone was killed because they wanted to get rid of him so that the rains can now start.
Okay, then right there is when I'll ask you, what is government doing about it? Any punishments in place for breaking that law? Is it even a law? Any solutions to curb such vices?
Yes. As advocates, you know, I'm in the government at the same time I advocate for older persons because it's where I'm going. Even right now, people call me Mzee, meaning that I've advanced to that level. What government has done, we are obviously government, its major mandate is coming up with favorable laws and policies and guidelines to make sure that the older person is protected. Like yourself, you've quoted the National Council for Older Persons Act, which is there. It was to mainstream issues of older persons and to make sure that older persons' issues are reported to the relevant authorities.
Yes.
Then we have currently a bill for older persons. It is a bill which is not yet passed by cabinet. That one is comprehensive enough. It is comprehensive. It is looking at the rights of older persons and at the same time the punishments of people who are...
So before we didn't have the punishments?
No, we didn't.
It's just a new development.
It is a new development.
Okay.
Then we have a policy, a policy on older persons. That policy was adopted, was put in place in 2009, and it has been reviewed, and currently it is before cabinet for approval. Why we are coming up with all that is to make sure that the rights of older persons are protected. Of recent, we've been drawing. We have the guidelines on health aging. Those ones were launched by His Excellency the President, and in fact, it was a directive from him saying our older persons are dying. And so what should we do? We came up with the guidelines on health aging. We have come up with of recent with the National Council. We are talking of mainstreaming issues of aging. Why? Originally, wherever you would go to the ministry, if you had an issue of older persons, even if you went to police, you are an older person, said, you go to the Ministry of Gender, without even listening to you. Does it only mean that because I'm old, I should not go to police, I should not go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs? The moment you reach there, you have an issue, for you.
You be forwarded to the
You go to Ministry of Gender. You go to the district. The moment you reach the district, even if you have gone to report a case of land grabbing, they will refer you to the Community Service Department. Now, so that's why we are saying we need to mainstream issues of aging so that every department, every ministry is responsible on issues of older persons.
Okay, so as we wait for those issues to be handled or for a policy to be enacted, what exactly do you do when these people come to report to you? What is done then? How do you help them?
Obviously, other than being older persons, they are human beings. And we have the laws and policies governing human beings in the country. We have the penal codes, we have in all aspects, something to do with the health, on the rights of older persons. We have the UN Human Rights Commission. All those are there. So as we are waiting for the enactment or the passing of the bill for older persons, other laws still are relevant to us. Yeah.
You want to add something
to that? Yeah, and I think as these abuses go on, like we've said, sometimes people don't, even members of the family will want to tell you, don't do that, don't go to police. Why do you want to accuse him? Now you're going to break up the family or things like that. They want to take the decision for you. And even some older persons also have a fear. How do I go to report my son? My son has beaten me. And we've seen this on social media. But the parent doesn't report, but it's the members of the community who can report on her behalf, for instance, when they are called witches. And with that fear, there is also access. Can older persons access the services, even the health services? Some people live very far in the villages. Some do not have the money to go to hospitals. Some do not have the money to go to the police, and they know when they go to police they will be asked for money. So access and affordability of some of these services, these are things that we are looking forward to. If government can put their laws that can be helpful to the older person.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if Miss Emily has something to add on that just before we go for a short break. We still have a discussion going on, a number of issues, for example, inclusion, of course, in government planning programs. We've seen the PDMs coming up, we've seen SAGE, where 25,000. But before I go there, do you have anything to add in regards to how to solve? You have been working with these people closely in your organization. So what have you done, like an organization, just in a few minutes, to help curb these vices?
Thank you so much. First and foremost is to create awareness, because once the community is aware, once the government is aware, then that is the first step to solve the problem. And also the older persons themselves to be empowered, really to be able to come out and report some of these cases is some of the things that we have been putting our energy on. And as an organization, as Help Age International, we believe in collaboration with government, because we know that it is the responsibility of the government to take responsibility of the citizens.
Yes.
So we support ministries in designing these policies to ensure that they effectively address the gaps that are existing.
All right, we take a short break, but we return shortly and the discussion continues. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the discussion. I hope you are having a good time and a good evening. Today is the World Elderly Abuse Awareness Day, and we are celebrating it by bringing you awareness and a lot of information about the older persons. What is it that we're supposed to do? How are we supposed to handle them? How is government handling them? And very many other things. In studio, I already introduced my guests. Like I told you before, we have Peace Kyamureku, an older persons activist. We have Emily Kemigisha, country representative of an NGO called Help Age International, as well as Menya Patrick, who is the principal gerontologist of elderly persons in government, and that is under Ministry of Gender, Labour, and of course Economic Development. I'd like to start off with the inclusions in government programs, and this will go to Menya Patrick. Maybe he'll help us break down what is it that government is doing to include the older persons in different programs. We are seeing programs like SAGE, where these people are supposed to get 25,000 Uganda shillings each. Is this money enough and stuff like that? But before we get to the enough, what are some of the plans that government has to include these people?
Thank you once again, and the viewer who is there viewing us. When we are talking about government programs, like I said before, the older person still remains a human being. Any other government program taking place, the older person is supposed to be a recipient. However, because the older person has been marginalized, then the government has come up with affirmative action for older persons. And that's why we are hearing of SAGE, that is, the other districts are calling it salary for the older persons. That we are supposed to get our what? Our salary. Government came up with that money, which is currently 25,000 shillings to every older person who has accumulated 80 years and above. So every older person who has reached 80 is entitled to 25,000 shillings on a monthly basis. However, it becomes very costly to give it on a monthly basis. So it is being given after 3 months. So after 3 months, the older persons above 80 years, they are getting the 75,000. However, it is not all older persons. The pensioners are not getting.
The people who are working before.
Those people who are working before are not getting this money.
Okay.
It is purely for people who are in the informal sector.
Okay.
Whether it is enough or not enough, but the government is giving. It is giving. Obviously, there are a number of issues. For instance, this money was meant to be for Ugandans. So that means that to want to be a Ugandan must have a national ID. So we tagged the 25,000 to older persons with national ID. But remember, when we were starting the process, older persons didn't register. So that was a snag there. So then another program where government has come up with a grant, we have the special enterprise grant for older persons. We call it SEGOP. SEGOP, that is special enterprise grant for older persons. This one here, it is being accessed in groups of older persons.
Okay.
It is catering for the gap from, because the other one is handling 8 and above, but an older person, according to the constitution we have seen, is starts from 60. So anyone who is above 60 to 79, government is also catering for this person. They form themselves into groups and they apply for funding. Government is giving not more than 5 million, but you can apply for anything less than 5 million. The beauty with it is that it is not, you are not going to pay back. But what we want, we are monitoring this money to make sure that it is put to the right use. Even if you are not going to pay, but we want to see if you invested, because we don't want older persons to leave the money economy. We want for them to be, they want to see them still in the money economy. So that's why government has put up, that's why it is called the enterprise grant. It is for older persons to remain investing that money. So that is another area where government has invested. Then we talk of the PDM. The PDM, we have, is it 10%? Yeah, we have 10%. That if money for PDM, like my home area is Chitanswa. Chitanswa. In Chitanswa, the amount of money, if it is 100 million, which has come to Chitanswa, then 10% of this money is supposed to be for the circle of the older persons. So all this is affirmative action to make sure that older persons benefit. Let alone the Myoga. Even the Myoga, the older person circles are being catered for. Obviously, every program that has been coming, it has been through advocacy, using peace and Emily
working with us.
Yes, we have seen older persons being included in government programs.
Tell us about awareness. Do these people know that, for example, that 10% of the amount of money is there for them?
Wow, they inserted they are more informed than you.
Really?
Yeah, obviously, there are older persons who say everything kwatako.
Yes.
There are those who are completely unaware. They are not aware. But not because we have not done our best as government, but government in conjunction with the civil societies and our advocates, we've done a lot of awareness creations for older persons to know what is taking place.
I want to know from Peace. She's an older person.
Yes,
Has
I'm
she
an
seen
older
this
person.
money? Has she tested it?
Not yet, because I'm not 80 yet. I'm just praying that.
And is the age, should the age be
Of course, I wish
deducted,
they were
dropped?
starting at 60, then I will try my luck. Good enough, I have my ID, although I don't have fingerprints, and they can cause me problems. But the ID I do have. So I think Uganda, we are not a homogeneous society that we all listen to television or listen to radio. So the trickling of information to the people concerned is really a big challenge.
Yes.
If you go to the rural areas where they are the illiterate, we have some of the poor communities, they don't get this information. And you hear a person saying, how do we access that? Who gives it out? How often? And then you ask her about, did you register for IDs? There are many out there who don't have IDs, because they will tell you, I don't know when I was born. And even the names, especially among the women. The woman is auntie when she's at a certain age, then she's mama, the son or something. Then after that, she's Jaja, Mukade. And these are names that cannot be put on an ID.
Of course.
And that is affecting them, even in health, not only in getting money. You go to a hospital, Jaja Nalongo. And then the medical people will tell you, no, we cannot do this process on you because we don't know exactly who you are. So, I mean, all these are part of the abuse. All these are part of the challenges which hinder us from accessing the good programs of government.
Okay. I guess we are going to have to organize a census to come up with numbers. But I would like to, still on the awareness issue, I'd like to ask Miss Emily about capacity building sessions that you're having with local councils, trying to push this thing so that, many people get to know. Tell us about that.
Thank you so much. Because as an organization, as a civil society organization, I said one of the approaches we use is capacity building and ensuring that awareness is created. Now, in the absence of structures, it becomes very difficult for information to trickle down from the Ministry of Gender, for example, about a new program, to the LC level, to a local older person, like my colleague Peace was saying. So we, as civil society organizations, we invested in advocacy and ensuring that there's representation structures of older people. And we thank the government really for honoring and ensuring that we have the National Council of Older Persons that starts from local level up to the national level. These structures are very important and useful in disseminating information to the older persons. Yes, these councils were put in place, but unfortunately, capacity was lacking. It was their first time they were coming into the system. They were not aware of what to do. So as Helpage International, we invested in building the capacity of the older persons structures to ensure that they are aware of the issues of older people themselves. They know what they're supposed to do and how actually to do it, how to lobby and advocate for issues that pertain older persons. So we've been doing that around the country with support also of ministry, and we are now confident that all the councils around the country at least know what to do. They know their mandate, and they can confidently speak at different levels to articulate issues of older people and ensure that information really trickles down. When Menya says, older persons are very aware about some of these issues, it is because she has had the council members that were trained confidently talk about these issues, confidently go out to the older persons that may not have had the announcements. By the way, for your information, a big percentage of older persons are living with a disability, and these forms of disability can be hearing empowerments. So if you go around the community, which is in the we are going to give money to older persons, you may be surprised that he has not actually heard. So it takes an extra effort of a council member, for example, that has been empowered to go an extra mile and say, hey, there's a council meeting, there's a distribution of Sego money at this parish. The Ministry of Gender is coming to create more awareness about Segop money, so come along. So that structure has helped us a lot, and the capacity building is the best approach we could have used to do this.
Okay, so I believe the structures you're talking about are yours as an NGO, yes?
No, I'm talking about
government.
the official national council structures.
Okay.
And as an NGO, we really believe in collaboration. We wouldn't want to really create
Bring
new
your own.
structures. That would really cause confusion.
Okay.
And in the first place, we are the people that were advocating that we have order councils in place.
Okay.
So now that they're in place, if we created parallel structures, that would be really
make no
disappointing.
sense.
Doesn't make sense, really. So we want to work together because issues of older persons really call for a joint effort between different stakeholders, government departments, different civil society organizations. There are actually very many that are working on aging in this agenda.
So do you think that anything can be added to these structures? Is there anything missing, any loopholes that you could maybe think of that government could improve?
The structures are in place, and I would also wish to urge government also to plan accordingly. Like now, come 2026, we shall have a new set of structures. There should be a plan of orientation and induction for these structures. And also when it comes to the mainstreaming and all these programs that are going in place, I would really call upon the government to invest in ensuring that there is close monitoring and accountability, to ensure that no one is left behind. It is one thing saying, okay, we have SAGE and everyone 80 and above is supposed to get, but in actual sense, have we done the monitoring to assess if every person that is 8 years and above is actually getting? There are some gaps. There are some people that don't have IDs. So unless there's a close monitoring system, you'll find that we have good policies and programs in place, but they are not actually effectively implemented. When you talk about the Myoga, the 10%, have we gone an extra mile as government to assess how many of the older persons have really benefited?
Okay, as Ministry of Gender representative, I think you can help us answer that. Have we done what she has said?
You know, when we talk of Ministry of Gender, we have structures from the grassroots.
Yes.
Other than the council, we have the community development officers. At least every sub-county has a community development officer. Then we have the senior community development officer, the district community development officers. Then even as we come to the city, those people are purely monitoring government programs on behalf of Ministry of Gender.
Okay.
So in regard to monitoring, we've tried our best, because what we do is to build capacity of the community development officers at all levels of governance. However, as you know, such issues can't. We are not yet 100% there. Though our target is being 100%, that those loopholes are withdrawn. But in regard to monitoring, we try our best. Even at the ministry, every quarter, every release of money, we make sure that at least we monitor like 10, 20 districts every. So by the end of the year, possibly you have monitored around 60 districts to know how they're operating. But we depend on, we can't fail to depend on the COW, that is the Chief Administrative Officer, and his structures down there
Okay.
That's what we do.
Just before we get to the way forward, because really we must think of what exactly must be done, can I find out again from Menya, are there any health programs for this? Because their health is really, really not so 100%. So are there any health programs by government?
At mid my discussion, I talked about mainstreaming.
Mainstreaming.
And we are working with the Ministry of Health to make sure that all health units have drugs and medicines for age-related issues or age-related illnesses. So our concern is to make sure that all health centers provide health to the older persons, and they should not look at an older person. They should not look at the older person as per se, but that we are advocating that they should look at another person as a human being. I will tell you that one time there was a saying that the lady went to the hospital saying she had a paining leg. Then the person was telling her that is age. So she asked whether this leg was born first, then the other one, which is not. So ideally, what we want to mainstream, as we're talking about mainstreaming, even in terms of profession, we need to professionalize the nurses. If we're talking about geriatricians, we need the geriatric issues should trickle from the regional hospitals up to the last unit. So in regard to health, we are grateful to some districts. For instance, Mukono, we are talking of Entebbe, where then they've put up a desk specifically to handle issues of aging. The older persons are not lining up. The older persons, we are having health camps, and we are grateful for the civil society organizations that are coming up to go to the grassroots to make sure that we have health camps for older persons. So ideally, we have tried, but like we have said, we still have a gap in health, because every time and again there is a virus which is coming. We were not prepared for COVID, but the older persons were majorly affected. Yes, so ideally that's what we've done.
All right, let us get into the call to action or way forward. I'd like to start with peace. What do you think should be done? What is the way forward?
Okay, thank you. I want to thank the ministry and civil society like Help Aid for the work they've done to raise awareness. But as older persons, we still feel, we are a long way to go. As much as we talk about policies, laws, and this money that is supposed to go to the older person, unless you convince us that corruption is not going to eat up some of this, our money, then we will be happy. Then we can, rest assured. But we know that some of the expenses of the 25,000 goes into transport, goes into, by the time this old man and old woman gets home, most of the money has gone. But maybe that's something that the ministry cannot take control over, but it all goes back to respecting the older persons, so that what is theirs and is respected and is left for them to take care of. Secondly, on health, we know that some places don't have basic services. For instance, water. How near or far is a water source for the older persons? I live in Tengera, but these few last days before it rained again, I'm telling you, getting water was a challenge. So this older person may have her sweet potato, but doesn't have the water and the firewood to cook it. So by the time the 25 or 75 comes after 3 months, that's why I think Emily talked about older persons starving. And really they do. We hear many older persons taking to drinking. Mental health. Instead of having food, they take a little booze, and one morning you find the person is dead, that she died in her sleep, when she died of hunger. So we need more monitoring from government, and where possible, where the family structures are now weak, and you find that there is no family to take care of this older person, if we can have homes, I know it's not the best way to go, but that's where we're going, because we know our communities, what we've gone through, not only the HIV, but even COVID, and even poverty. We have, people who don't have grandparents, and we have grandparents who don't have children. So who is going to take care of whoever is lacking? Government, we are calling upon you. Yes, get us a place where we can put these people.
Okay, I'll end with Emily, but let's go to Mr. Menya Patrick.
Yeah.
How are we going to make sure that, like she said, there's no corruption in giving out the resources that have been provided by government? How are we making sure that all health facilities have, for example, basic needs like water? Basically, what's the way forward in your last words?
In regard to corruption, fighting corruption is not a one person's
Very
issue.
true.
Everybody of us need to come out and see how corruption can be fought. In regard to what we can do, like I said, we are commemorating the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which falls today, but because of the budget, we are looking at it tomorrow.
Okay.
We are going to be, so our call to all Ugandans that we should respect the older person. We should pay attention to the older person. In terms of programming, in terms of planning for this country, like today, we are witnessing the budget. We need, at our local levels, we need to analyze this budget. Is it sensitive to the older persons? Then individual persons, if we are talking about the 25,000 being small, can you add on as a granddaughter, as a grandson? The other one is government is giving 25,000 and is not enough. Then that the individual, the viewer who is watching today, add on the 25,000, so that we see everybody of us moving. The youths, our major concern has been the youths. They should respect the older person. The older person has a right to property. The issue of grabbing the land of the older person, let it come to an end, because you are also growing. I beg to submit.
Thank you so much. Emily, what is the way forward in your opinion as a person who works closely with this group of people and of course as a civil society organization, and also you will talk about what is happening tomorrow?
Okay, thank you so much. In terms of way forward, I think each institution, each individual, each community has a responsibility to do.
Yes.
And fighting abuse and violence among older persons cannot be done individually. It's a multi-sectoral approach that we need to take. Government needs to pass the appropriate laws. For example, we have the AU protocol on the rights of older persons that has not been ratified for a long time. Other countries have ratified, but Uganda, I don't know what we are waiting for. At some point, the minister promised, and we felt like, okay, it was going to be ratified like the next minute. All of a sudden, we went into a silent mode. So we need to put and fast track some of those policies. We also need to fast track the bill that he's talking about, because once they're in place, then at least that is a starting point to follow through and ensure that they're implemented. But also, as older persons, I think they also have a responsibility to play. We need to voice up. We need to stop the silence and ensure that we report cases of neglect, we report cases of abuse. Because then if we keep silent, then no one will really care. And then family members, where has this culture gone? Community members, I think we need to put ourselves in the shoes of the older person. One thing I want to remind all the viewers is that aging is a process. And each one of us will surely get old. That is if you're lucky enough. So can each one of us treat the older persons the way we would want to be treated when we get there?
Very true.
That's it. I can summarize it that way.
That is a very good contribution. About tomorrow, any plans to celebrate the day?
Yes, about tomorrow, we want to actually give credit to the government of Uganda for spearheading the commemoration. The event is tomorrow, and the Department of Disability and Elderly are taking lead. And in fact, Menya would be best positioned to talk about it. But I'm a key stakeholder, and I'm aware that it's going to take place at Imperial Royal in Kampala. And guest of honor and other details, Mr. Menya, please give us the details.
Okay.
But we look forward, and we hope that we'll take really big strides to ensure that we end elder abuse in the country.
Thank you so much. Briefly, the details about this celebration.
To tomorrow's function, it is by invitation. We've put it in a hotel, and people who are going to join already have
Their
the
invites.
letters. And our guest of honor is the Honorable Jidudu Mafavi, who is our Minister for Elderly Affairs.
Okay.
But my concern, let everybody celebrate and commemorate
Wherever
and
they
respect
are.
the older person wherever they are.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much. It's been a very beautiful discussion. Of course, there's a lot of things we've not talked about because of time, like the issue of elderly persons living alone. I hear that it's a very big challenge. Other countries have handled it by coming up with homes. I don't know if Uganda should do that as well, should adopt it. But we'll have these people again for a very beautiful discussion. Otherwise, everybody is headed there. Please treat elderly persons with very much respect. My name is Nowamani. Thank you so much for being a part of our discussion. It is going on social media as well, at Church of Uganda Family TV, on Twitter, on Facebook, as well as our YouTube channel. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. God bless you.